Welcome, welcome, welcome to Shift Talk, another episode of Shift Talk. And as you can see, I'm making a debut with my new baby who wanted to be in my lap. And it was nothing I could do about it because if not, she'd keep tearing up everything that's on the floor right now. So welcome everybody to the community. Say hi to your new niece, Trinity. And this is her debut to the public right now. Like she's not letting me do much. So welcome, 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 everybody. This show has been in the making for months. And I want to bring a special group of nieces to the panel. And we are talking about women's sacred cycles and why didn't anybody tell us dot dot dot. So for those of you who are here for the very first time, I am Latanya Taylor, affectionately known as the Rev Coach, the Juicy Spirit Mama, the Priestess of Purpose, Pleasure, Passion, and Profits. And we do sacred work in private spaces for women, particularly rites of passage that always includes our reproductive health. And one conversation that continues to come up is, why didn't anybody tell us about this and that? It started with me for menopause, but for perimenopause. I knew about menopause, but I didn't know about perimenopause. And I do women's work. And so in that, I had conversations with my nieces that really enlightened me. And I was like, you know what? We got to talk about this. So I want to bring them up one at a time. First, we have the beautiful and lovely Coriel, who is absolutely the master podcast queen. I would say master teacher. She is much, much more. She's multifaceted. And I want you to introduce yourself because this conversation started with Coriel and it also extended to my newest niece, Carmen Jones. You all saw me on the as the OG auntie. They're the ones that pinned me as the OG auntie, and we were having some multi-generational conversations. Proud Xer, so I'm going to let her introduce herself as well. And we also have my beloved Dervay, who is also coming in representing Gen Z, right? Okay, so we get to hear from Gen Z, and we have another Gen Xer who is challenged by technology, but always has a lot to say. And she will be joining us in a moment. And Megan, you ready to come up? And some of you all know and love Megan, who has been a part of our mother tongue reading room as well, who absolutely is phenomenal in her own right as a songstress, a jewelry maker, and she pulls women together on the West Coast and has quite a bit of influence as well with those that she works with. We got our other Gen Xer. She didn't leave me out here by myself. And so she's taking a break from her busy day as well, who is the glam mother reigning in from Vicksburg, Mississippi. You all know she's my classmate, but she's more than that. She's a stylist. She works with women. So she too is hearing all of the things from all of the generations. So we got to move fast because these women have other things to do. And so we're going to start with Coriel, where the conversation started. So Coriel, tell folks who you are and what you do.
I am excited to be here, first of all. This conversation has been a long time coming, so I am proud of you for finally having it and thankful for you for including me. So I am Coriel. I am the owner of Elevate Travel Co., which is a full service travel agency. We also train aspiring travel agents and we specialize in retreat and group travel planning. I'm also the executive director of For the Culture Foundation, which is a nonprofit organization here in Atlanta that strives to help the Black community by healing the Black family. And I am soon to be a mommy of three. So I'm excited to be here, especially having this conversation about bridging the generational gap since I am literally preparing to birth another generation.
Yes, you are. Carmen, tell everybody who you are and what you're working on.
Yes, ma'am. Can you hear me? I know I had some difficulty earlier. Okay.
Yes.
All right. I'm Carmen. I'm the founder and CEO of the Black Girl Social Club. It is a global network of thousands of Black women. And we just come together to just be. And so we're actually preparing to go on a cruise. I've been running around all day. We're leaving tomorrow. We're headed to the Bahamas. And so I'm really excited about that, but more and
Wow.
more and more excited to be here with you ladies to discuss this very important topic. So thank you for having me.
Thank you. And while they're introducing themselves, please share this out with your bestie, your girlfriend, your good Judy, your niece, your mentee, because we need to keep this conversation going. So click the share button, like it, comment it on it, so that we can let the algorithm know that we're here. All right, Dervay, come on, girl, make your debut.
Okay. First, thank you for having me. Thank you. And hello to all of my fellow sisters. I'm happy to be here. But yes, I am Dervay, and I do help women, but I help through poetry and art. I have a collection of poetry that is available on Amazon. It's called On the Way to Rain. And I am in a time period in my life where I am being stretched and called to do more for women. So definitely stay tuned for what is to come. But for right now, that's what I have.
All right. All right, Megan.
Hello, I'm so happy to be here. So my name is Megan here in California, representing for all the West Coast women, and both in the use of my voice and in my jewelry serves as a reminder of who we are, who we're beginning, and what's being called on our lives. And so I sit to serve as a light of demonstrating what that looks like and calling women into spaces for them to find their power.
Wonderful. And my girl Karen, who technology is just like we were all over the place, but she made it. She made it. All right.
I
Tell
mean, there
everybody
we go.
who you are and what you're working on, Karen.
Well, I'm a hairstylist, business owner, and we're gonna use self-employed. I learned that word today. I'm more self-employed, but I am growing as an entrepreneur. I just celebrated 25 years in business with women, and so I am the girl for the girls. I love the girls. I'm a girl, and I know the stuff that we go through. I have to hear these secrets. They pour into me weekly. And so I hold myself accountable for the things that I know. And so none of this stuff is a surprise to me, and I specialize in. And the girl that needs to get back out there, the girl that's been hurt, whatever it is, people just bring them to me. They tell me the story. They may tell me about a girlfriend, and
Mm,
I love doing this. I can never get tired of it.
all right.
Next.
And if I was at home in Mississippi, she would definitely be my stylist. So I thank you for taking time out of your schedule, all
Thank
of
you.
you, to have this conversation. You know, it keeps coming up because when we grew up, everybody talked about menopause and we laughed about menopause. I'm just jumping right in with menopause. We don't, but we know it's not just that. Um, but I would really was like perimenopause. What get what? You know, and I read Dr. Christian Northrup's Women's Bodies, Women's Wisdom. I had to go back to my books and say, did I miss something? Did I miss a detail? Because this is what I study. This is what I do because I think my theory is that this stuff is invented or developed over time with
Mhm.
our diet and that type of thing. But it started with perimenopause. And when I made a post about perimenopause, the girls went off. That everybody who had not commented on posts for months came out of the woodwork like, yeah, yeah, Rev Coach, yeah, yeah, sis, yeah, do that. We need to talk about this because it's kicking the asses of so many of my sister friends, and it's not just over 50. That's the other thing that we didn't know, that perimenopause can start in your 30s, but did nobody tell us? So,
I,
so Coriel, how did we start this conversation beyond perimenopause? I forgot.
I think that that was the spark of the conversation, but that led us to talking about the different things that we just don't share with one another. And because we
mhm,
usually don't have these uncomfortable, I guess, conversations, when we find ourselves in the trenches, we think that something is wrong with us, or we think that we're the only one that has gone through this particular thing.
mhm,
I'm not, knock on all of the wood, I have not started to experience perimenopause yet, but there's definitely things that I've gone through, from, abusive relationships to postpartum. I won't claim postpartum depression, but postpartum ish that I've experienced, that
mhm,
I just felt like, okay, not that I hadn't heard of these things, but I hadn't really heard a true testimony of what I could expect, and different versions of what I could expect, because obviously everybody's different. So when you find yourself literally like curled up on the floor feeling crazy, if you don't have an outlet, a support system, or if you've never had these conversations with an auntie or a cousin or a sister friend, it can be lonely. And mental health, we
mhm,
talk about mental health all the time, but these are the real life things that can like send you spiraling when you're trying to keep it all together, you're trying to manage and maintain all of the things, and you just don't necessarily have an outlet. So I think that's kind of how the conversation started, with you being like, I was not expecting all of this. And then, me being able to share with you things that I have experienced that I wasn't necessarily expecting, either. So I'm glad we're having this conversation to hopefully help somebody.
Yes, yes.
mhm,
I had a big sister. So my big sister walked me through every phase of my life, starting with,
mhm.
or I would say before a menstrual cycle. And so I want to know from each one of you, did you have somebody with you at the start of menses? What was the message you received? And who was it, and what difference did it make? Gervais, you want to answer?
So for me, my mom started preparing me pretty young. In my opinion, a little too young, because I think she was a bit worried about what could come once I started my menstrual cycle. But when I started my menstrual cycle, I was very informed about what was happening, so I knew what was happening and everything like that. But I started my menstrual cycle before I was a teenager. I started really really young. I had hormonal
Mhm.
issues, just as you mentioned. They put so much junk in the food, which is a part of the reason why I probably got it so early. But I was pretty aware of what was happening, but I didn't receive, oh my gosh, let's celebrate, you're beginning to become a woman. I didn't have that. It was attached to, oh my God, she could get pregnant, and a lot of much more monitoring, a lot more strictness. I already had a really strict mom, but now it was just like even more so.
Mhm.
So I wish it was attached to, hey, you're becoming a woman now, and this is a time to celebrate, and not so much worry and fear. And I also had really bad menstrual cycles. I had a lot of pain, and I wish that was also handled a lot better, I would say.
Okay. All right. Carmen, what about you?
I don't remember a whole lot about my first menstrual cycle. I just remember being laid out on the couch. I'm a very dramatic person, so I was just laid out in pain. But my mom wasn't. My mom has always been very understanding. She tried to give me all of the support and resources. But I think as I got older, well, I know as I got older, my menstrual has always been like a pain point for me. I've always had really bad cycles, all very long, very heavy. And so recently I actually had a procedure, the UFE procedure, to get rid of 20 fibroids that I had.
Oh, wow, Carmen.
Yes. And so that was in July. So menstrual cycles have always been just like a topic I just don't even want to discuss. Like I dread coming on every month, coming on my cycle. So things have gotten a little bit better, but in terms of the conversations around menstrual cycles in childhood, they weren't negative at all. Just very supportive. And my mom was there with me during that time.
Okay. Okay. Did I see you, Coriel, say no, 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 you didn't get any information?
You know I'm triggered by this question.
Oh,
We done had this conversation offline in terms of my entrance into womanhood. So I've been very vocal about my mother wound, which has improved greatly, I must say. But it started, for as long as I can remember, me and my mother have had tension in our relationship. And I've had trust issues with my mother for as long as I can remember. And so and I have a big sister, I'm triggered by the big sister thing too, because I did have a big sister who, society would make you think that would help usher you into some of these experiences and guide you and hold your hand. I didn't experience that. And so the one thing I can say that I did learn from my big sister, unbeknownst to her, was I remember when she started her cycle. So I took what I remember seeing her doing, and when I started my cycle, in middle school, I just did what I saw her doing. I remembered her experience, but I didn't share it with anybody. I didn't tell anybody. I didn't tell my mother. I didn't tell my sister. I didn't tell my friends. I think that, somebody ended up finding some evidence in a trash can, and that's how they found out that I had started my cycle because I didn't have a safe space. I didn't have people in my home other than my dad, but that wasn't something I was about to share with my dad. But I didn't have people that I could trust, that I felt like I could trust with this what I thought was like embarrassing because it had not been a conversation. So I didn't have a party like Gervais said. I didn't have a celebration. I didn't even have a safe space, which, part of it is my fault because I didn't give anybody the chance to, have, well, not to have the conversation because they could have had the conversation, but I didn't give anybody a chance to say, this is what I'm going through. Can you help me through it? Because we were beyond me, sharing sensitive information by, 12 when I got my cycle.
okay. I appreciate you, Sabrina, for not leaving Coriel out there because she said all the guidance I received was from my friends who had big sisters. So if you're in the comments and any questions apply to you, just drop your comment, your experience in the comments so that I can highlight it. So, Megan, so tell us about what was your entry into womanhood like? For what did you have company support? Celebration, nothing.
Well, my entry started at school in middle school. And so I needed to call home. And so I will say in that moment, I was grateful for my mom. She gave me very little information, but the essence of it was just expect this to happen every month. But outside of that, it was really sister friends that helped guide me through this, explored, different products. I was reading the back of the product, literally the instructions myself. So kind of building onto that self-sufficiency where you really want support. And then my mother also had a full hysterectomy early in her life. So she didn't even go through, I think, perimenopause or menopause. So that won't be a conversation for me in this stage.
Okay.
But it's for girlfriends.
Wow. All right, Gen Xer, come on in. What was it like for you?
Woo! Okay, so I'm just going to come out with this. So the day that it happened, I came home from, I don't know, I just know I went to the bathroom and I saw red. But a few days before that, I was somewhere being fast, letting somebody feel on me. Okay? And nothing happened, thank goodness, because I was so glad when I saw it, because I was like, okay, even though this is my first time, I was, rattled and scared and was thinking, I do know that this means you can be a mama. I had sense enough to know that. And I was glad that nothing happened a couple of days before. But Gen X, our mothers, they definitely didn't too much talk about this kind of stuff. It was they may have been embarrassed or so we might get about 2 or 3 words on something like that. All I remember is she came in and she saw my panties and at the time I just rolled up some tissue and she went and got on the phone to go tell her girlfriend.
Oh,
So
Yes.
yeah, that's it. And so I just had to talk about that with my girlfriend. Girl, look what happened, y'all. So now I'm on the crew with the other girls who got their periods. So I'm all in there now. That's how we thought. But we had to learn from our friends because Mama went right and told it. But she
Wow.
didn't talk to me. She didn't come in here and tell me. What I'm saying. I didn't get no 90210 story. Whatever show y'all got going on today, Hannah Montana or whoever. Yeah, we didn't have that. What I'm saying? They came back with a keep your dress tail down because now you can get pregnant. Something like that. That's about it.
Yeah, same. I will, my mom did take time, but the reason why I asked that question is because how you start anything tells the story a lot of times for almost everything else. And that's the first big transition that we have. But I know we could break this down into from all of the menses, the menopause,
All the men.
all the men's, all of the thing that have men. Speaking of which, what when we think about our mothers and their relationships with with themselves, what did we see? What would did we see a model of maybe the life you live now? Did you see that modeled for you?
I
Yeah,
didn't.
as much as I hate to admit it, this is a realization. I feel like for me at least, let me just speak for myself. Once I became a mother, because of my own mother ish, it gave me a new perspective on all of the things, like how I feel about my children versus how I think my mother felt about me and just the different experiences I want to create. And one thing that I've definitely found myself comparing is the fact that my mother didn't have what I would say are like deep friendships. And I definitely find myself also having surface level friendships with a lot of people versus deep, meaningful friendships with a few people. And so that's definitely something that I feel like was modeled that, was like a subconscious thing where I didn't necessarily grow up valuing friendships and I didn't, strive to create a lot of those really deep, meaningful friendships for myself. But outside of that, I think that I have at every turn tried to do the opposite of whatever I saw my mom or felt like my mom was doing. But that's the one area that I feel like subconsciously that just has been ingrained in me.
That's a good point. I'm glad you brought up that so we can touch back on that. I actually was just chatting in the inbox because I put something in the stories and one of the sisters from the community said, "I'm really working on being a better friend." She's like, "I don't know how to be a friend." And I was like, wow, we make so many assumptions about when we meet a woman just because she's a woman or female that
Mhm.
she has had the same cycle of or experiences that we have had. And I think that's why when you have women tribes, things can break down because you're making way too many assumptions. So I'm glad you all brought that up. Anyone else want to highlight another thing that you see or feel? I don't even know how I'm talking so well today without coughing. Wood.
I definitely didn't see the lifestyle I'm living now in my mom.
Okay.
She was a soft, passive woman, very passive to me. Which she had such a hard dad. Her dad was me. But she was soft and a little mousy sometimes for me. Um,
Mm.
Oftentimes when she would come and tell me something she went through at work, by the time I became, old enough, I would say, well, then why don't you just tell him this, mama? Just tell him this, say that.
Ah,
And,
okay.
yeah. I said, "Yeah, next time they say that, you say this right here, because she don't have that quick. And she did not have a lot of friends. She was a loner. She was at home a lot. When we got older, she didn't have to have a bunch of friends. And she used to be in women's groups when we were kids, and there were ladies groups that she would be in. And sometimes they come over have meetings, but she didn't do a whole lot. Now me, I do a whole lot. But then after I've done a whole lot, I still got to go be by myself. So I do have some of that part of her. After I'm done doing a lot, I don't want to be bothered. So but I still do way more, way louder, live way louder, and than her.
Wow.
So I didn't see that in her.
Right.
And I
Okay.
was fine with it, good with it.
Yeah, 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 yeah.
Hmm.
Karen, that's my story as well. I
Hmm.
called my mom and I like almost opposites, with the exception of I do sometimes need to go and be quiet. And it's like the balance to all the other parts of myself. But she and
Hmm.
I live completely opposite types of lives in terms of my willingness to be out front and hers. I also described her as passive.
Hmm.
Hmm.
Well,
Interesting.
I feel like I have to weigh in now because I don't have that experience. So my mother and I are pretty similar. She's extremely social, has always had like a lot of friendships and just very, she's never met a stranger. So
Mm.
we get along in that way, but I think our differences come as a generational difference. She's a baby boomer, so even some of the conversations that I would have thought she would have had with me based on our relationship, I realize now that we didn't have those conversations. Like the
Mhm.
stuff that I'm learning, I'm like, well, why? To your point, why didn't we have this? Why didn't somebody tell me? Right.
Mhm.
And so I think a lot of, um, I think that generation, I don't want to speak for everybody in the generation. I'm not a part of the generation, but I think a lot of conversations were left undiscussed, whether it's became from shame or just how people were raised. But I do think my mom wanted to have those conversations. I just don't think she knew how to.
Wow.
You said she was a baby boomer?
Yes.
Yeah, baby boomers got less than what we got, and then theirs probably got less than that.
Yeah,
Right.
so I if you notice, there's not anyone from the boomer group in this conversation, and I'll be fully
Mm.
transparent, and I believe that that Dr. Kia will understand. After I had Dr. Kia Pruitt on the show week before last, and she was using terms like "be good," "be righteous," "be this," and "be that," I was like, I couldn't let it ride, and I had said, "Oh, you're talking to a tribe of free women who don't we don't believe in being good and all of this." I knew the energy of what she was saying, but the language was so boomer.
Mm.
And
Mm.
I almost feel like I need to have a show
Mm.
with more boomers because I really do think that they would trigger all of y'all.
And
It'd be
likewise.
fun though. It'd be a little fun though, wouldn't it?
It would, it would.
Get us one. I got one in mind. A new client, and you may know her, I'm sure, but she's been sharing some stuff with me. I
Right.
think, yeah, she should be old enough to be my mom too, but and she knows quite a bit. She said she's been knowing stuff since 15 years. She said she's been studying 15 years. And I was impressed. She's
Right.
very open minded.
Well, listen, they're there. They are out there.
Hmm.
I could not have made it as far. I mean, at the end of the day, the Reverend Dr. Iyanla is a boomer. And there are times when, I look at her with two heads. Sometimes, it's a mother-daughter energy there. So but it's times when she look at all of us like we have two heads too. So but what about you, Dervay? And I think Megan, you already answered. I'm gonna get to you all in the comments. Keep it coming.
So I wanted to share that my mom, when it comes to friendship, she's different from me, especially with everything that I've learned about myself recently, that community and friendship is actually very detrimental to my growth. But my mom, actually, very typical Caribbean woman. She's very much like, I send you to school to learn and to make something of yourself. I do not send you to school to make friends. And that's what was told to me all of the time. So having friendships
Wow.
wasn't encouraged. Yeah, it was not encouraged because, they come from a country where there's a lot of jealousy, right? Everyone for the most part, it's hard, it's struggle. So when you do have success, when you do gain something, it's always protect it, keep it away from people because
Oh
they're
wow.
they're afraid of someone betraying you or someone doing something to you, to take that blessing from you. But what I noticed about my mom, who is a boomer, she tried to make me shy away from having friends, but she would always say that, listen, if I die and you're still really young, go and speak to an older woman. Go
Mhm.
to your older women and ask them about whatever it is, recipes or anything about womanhood. Talk to them. If I'm not here, talk to them. So that's one thing that I always remember that she would tell me, because she lost her mom young. That's a bit of a cycle that runs in the like my maternal line, and that's what she did. So she didn't try to be, she didn't try to have a whole bunch of friends, but she went to older, wiser women to help her, guide her, because she didn't have a mom. So
So I want to ask you all, what do you all think is the breakdown between the generations? And let me just review the generations really quick before you answer, because the reason why I became so passionate about this generational conversation healing is through Fix My Life. And one of my shows, I had to coach six different people from five different generations,
Hmm.
which made me have to study the conversation and how we were going to do the show. Not just me, but even if eventually when we got to production, we had to look at how we were going to approach an exercise that could open up each generation, because the things that we needed to put on the table, we had a silent generation, which means who was this was the show where the mother was homosexual, but she was lesbian, I should say. And so she called her lover their aunt or her best friend for years. Mind you, she's living there, they're staying in the same room, but they could never be um affectionate in front of the children, all of this. So that created a whole dynamic of betrayal and lies, and a series of events. Then we had the silent generation. This woman was absolutely suffering. Then her daughter was a Gen Xer, and her daughter had children, and who were the actual one. Well, two were millennials. One was a millennial. Two was Gen Z. And then we had the father, who they call Uncle Daddy. And then we had uncles who we had to interview who didn't make the show. It was so many layers to this particular episode that I learned so much as one holding space, that I recognize, oh my God. Astrologically, this also does have some messages, because we're not making this stuff up about the generations. The silent generation, of it tells you they were taught not to talk. They went through the civil rights movement and so much more in terms of the Jim Crow South. They have stories that many of them never told, from racism to rape to molestation to so much more. So many of them don't have not told their story, and they didn't tell, and you don't tell. Not to mention people who got pregnant with children, sent them off to the north or the south, and then people growing up in families and not knowing that that's your mama, even though you think it's your cousin. So that's their dynamic. Then you have boomers who were raised by silent generation, and even before silent, who were trying to climb the corporate ladder. And I do remember an Oprah show where there was multi generational conversation, and it stuck with me forever, because there was a boomer who had expectations. These boomers had these expectations of their children. And the young lady was my age. She's like, I don't want the corporate ladder. She rejected all of that. And then we have, of course, Gen X. Yes, baby. The unknown factor. Y'all know, see all the TikToks about us. And don't send for us if y'all don't want us at the table. Okay. That's us. I'll just sum that up. And then we have millennials who came and outed every damn thing. Y'all told us how to make money. All the shit we paid thousands of dollars for in terms of building credit and business. Y'all come on Instagram and just put it all out there. We paid for it. We had to pay for it. And then there's Gen Zers who they don't really want to have that much to do with millennials at all. They don't they are the ones that didn't play outside. They don't have a cousin crew. They didn't grow up with cousins. And I forgot the Gen, I think it's Gen Y or something now after that.
I think it's alpha,
Alpha. Okay.
and now
And
it's beta.
that beta,
Yeah, my baby will be beta. Yep.
your
It
baby.
started this year, I think. Beta.
Okay. Okay. So that's the generations. What do you all think was the breakdown in terms of what you observed in your own family? You don't have to speak for the collective, but just from when we think about womanhood, what do you think was the breakdown?
I would say that the silence is was the start of all the ish that I have personally experienced. Because to your point, my grandmother was part of the silent generation that directly impacted my mother, who was a boomer or is a boomer. I'm sorry, excuse me, is a boomer, raising a millennial. So outside of, obviously I didn't know anything about generations as a child,
Yeah.
but being super curious about my lineage, my heritage, um, all of the things, doing the ancestry, all of the things that I'm personally curious about, and then realizing how many secrets my family had that was swept under the rug. And not only just secrets in terms of like things to be ashamed about, but not
Mhm.
even sharing like the history of our family. Like I'm literally on the internet trying to search for records that could have very easily been verbally spoken and passed down. And now, all of my grandmothers, my grandparents are no longer here. So I'm piecing together literally pieces of the story. And I'm asking my mother questions that she doesn't even know the answer to because everything was so hush hush and such a big
Mhm.
secret. So I think that kind of sparked it off. And that definitely impacted the secrecy, I would say, that my mother, carried on, where I don't necessarily have questions, about myself, but I have questions about our family. So I think the
Mhm.
silent generation, which is the first, generation that I can actually say I've laid eyes on because I didn't know my great great grandparent. I think
Mhm.
that definitely directly impacted, the lack of information that we still have today.
That's a good
I want
point. Mhm.
I want to weigh in because I think when we have these conversations, it's important to give grace to our mothers and our grandmothers and our aunts. Just considering where they came from, considering what was happening in society at the time. You mentioned that silent generation, they were silent for a reason. It wasn't that they wanted to be silent, right? They
That's not
had
a good
things they were
point.
trying to protect themselves from, right? There's
Mhm.
trauma there. So as I got older, I stopped blaming my mother for things that I felt like
Mhm.
I didn't like. And I tried to get to understand her as a woman. I tried to get to understand her, like, what was her childhood like? What was her adult life like before I was born, even thought of, right? And listening to her story to understand her and why she behaves the way she behaves. Why does my aunt behave the way she behaves? My grandmother and so
Well, you're jumping to solution. I want to deal with the breakdown first,
well,
though.
yeah. And so
Let me
I
tell
don't
you why. Let me tell you
know.
why, though, Carmen. Let me tell you why.
Okay.
Because so many women do that. We don't deal with the breakdown, and we give the grace first, particularly in black women, where it's chronic. When we talk about that mother wound and the
Mhm.
breakdown, black
Mhm.
women do not have permission oftentimes to call a thing without thinking that it's personal. But I do get your point. I do get
Oh,
your
I'm
point.
getting there. I'm getting there. So what I'm gonna say is that the breakdown comes, I think, from generational trauma, generational experiences, those kinds of things. And I think it's important that we address it. And I'm doing that in my family as this outspoken millennial person that just has to say, call a thing a thing. But within that, I am giving grace and I'm not just saying, hey, my mom is silent and she didn't tell me something. And I'm trying to understand, I'm trying to connect with
Yes.
her on an adult level. Now
Yes.
I'm almost
Yes.
40.
Mhm.
I
Yes.
appreciate that so much about you, Carmen. This is why I miss our podcast because we are complete opposites. I'll be ready to cut them down, and you'd be like, "Well, wait a
We
minute,
are,
let's
but that's
consider
okay.
something
Okay,
else." So I
so
appreciate that.
she's millennial. You're Carmen. You're millennial. You say,
I am. Yep.
and at the top, Jessica. Was it Jessica?
No, I know
No,
Jessica,
no.
your girl,
Okay, who are the
Yeah.
millennials? Who are the millennials?
Coriel and
We're
Carmen.
millennials, me and Carmen.
Okay, and Danya, what's the one right here with the curls?
Gervais.
Survey.
Dervay.
Hervey. I'm sorry, babe, my glasses ain't picking it up.
It's okay.
You're
I'm a
a
Gen
Gen
Z.
Z, and
Yes.
you have a baby boomer mama.
Yes. My mom has
Y'all three,
children.
I heard baby boomer mamas for some generations way down. So y'all all right?
They were booming. They were
Y'all good? Because y'all got a baby boomer mama, baby. I'm just checking on you.
I am not well. Thank you for asking.
Uh, but yeah, so I think the breakdown is the little traces of the generation left that gets to the next one. I am guilty of having some secrets, not saying some stuff about some stuff that my Gen Zer told me, well, why would you even do that? And I said, you just remember that when you get married, you remember that. Keep that same energy.
Yeah.
Why'd you let them do that? Why'd you? So I love the generations. I love the millennials will crack you down the middle.
Yeah, they will.
Millennials, they mean, but they stomp on your neck, baby. They don't care. They
But
stomp on these men neck. They
we
stomp.
made them like that. We were out. Class of '89 was out this weekend, and
Hmm.
and everybody. Some of them have different levels. My girlfriends. Some of them don't even have children as or just having children graduating from high school. So they have, I guess, what's that, alphas? I guess. And then we have another set of classmates that have grown children, very grown.
Hmm.
And so they were talking about all of what you were just saying, but we made them mean. So what? I feel like we made y'all mean. I got a story. Let me free
Okay.
myself because even though I don't have any children, childless by choice. Shout out to the childless by choice crew. Um, I helped raise my niece, and my niece turned on me at one point. She would loved me like I was everything, and then by the time she got to college, everything I did annoyed her. And then I'm the free spirited auntie. I got rich auntie energy. No matter if I
So
got it
you
in
thought.
my account or not. But anyway, so I'm that archetype, and
Mhm.
she's conservative. She's a conservative millennial. But when I tell you the judgment and the nose turned up and oh my God, but she taught me. I had to learn. My sister told me if I can let go and she's my child, you got to learn how to be able to let her go. So she taught me so many things. She made me look at myself, but God doggone it, she broke my heart. Y'all be breaking people's heart, millennials.
Whew, man, they
listen.
Why?
don't care.
Why?
I can't. I mean, I think and I can't speak for every millennial, but I'll just say I think we just kind of are fed up with like the performances. Like we don't like to perform. We like to get straight to the point. And there's a lot of frustration there for a lot of us because grew up with baby boomer parents who, like you said, they weren't having the conversations, and we may have resentment there for not being able to have conversations. All of these things are underlying, and I think we just are the generation that has seen a lot, and we have said once and for all, we're putting our foot down. We don't want to perform. We're tired of the lies. Let's do it and let's get to it. And so
Okay.
I think people think that's
Mhm.
mean, but for us, it just is what it is.
But
I understand me language.
how is it coming back to y'all now? Because y'all mamas, wives, and y'all moving around the world. So talk to me, Coriel, how it's coming back to
Yeah,
you.
yeah, somebody.
Well, I'll have to check in about 10 years because, my babies are 2 and 4. My babies are 2 and 4. So
But
I
you've
am
lived
not.
life. You've lived life, though. You've had some life experiences.
Yeah, but I'm concerned with these children and how they're going to give it back to me. I would say that think that I'm reaping what I sow, but it's in a positive way because I don't ever cut people down with a negative intention. I don't ever knowingly go into a situation with a bad intention. And so I believe, the karma that I'm getting back hasn't been terrible. I think my life experiences are a reflection of the choices that I've made. To Carmen's point, I refuse, and I'm the one, I guess I would be like the black sheep, the whatever of my family. I'm the one, my millennial self, that refused to do what I saw everybody else doing. So I am the one, literally the only cousin, the only grandchild that got married before I have kids. And no shame, no judgment to whatever anybody else does, but that was something that was very important to me.
No, no, no. Speak on that. Speak on that a little. Unpack that a little bit
So,
more in
so
terms
I
of what
came
you
from a
saw.
so I came from a family that the cousins showed up with babies, but it wasn't no daddies around. We ain't never met a man, but you show up pregnant again and again and again. This was just like a cycle. I come from a family where my aunts were not married. My aunts are very masculine. My aunts all have children, but one of them had a husband. My mom, also had a husband. So I come from seeing people who valued motherhood but did not value marriage. And not only did they not value marriage, it would be to the point where they would say things like your friend. When I introduced Kendrick, who is now my husband, to my family, I remember my aunt making a comment about my friend, and I very quickly had to correct her, like, no, that's my man. He wasn't my husband at the time, but I'm not playing this game with y'all where you just say when you bringing your little friends around, because that to me is disrespectful to the the sanctity of marriage, the sanctity of a union, which was very important to me. And I distinctively, I had a whole business called the Single Wives Club when I was a single woman who was preparing to become a wife, because that's just how important marriage was for me. Because I had not attended a wedding until I got to college, and it was a friend. There's never been a family wedding in my family. That's not something that we value. But everybody's showing up with babies. And so I was literally the last cousin to come with kids. I was the first cousin to get married, but the last cousin to come with kids. And that's just who I've been. And that's just one example of me wanting to do different than what I've seen. And so I think to the millennial point, I wasn't necessarily going around telling people where that baby come from. I wasn't outwardly judging what other people had going on, but I was definitely silently planning my steps very intentionally, because I wasn't just going to be another, family member that showed up, with no intention. I've been very intentional about the way that I live my life. So I think that, it's a reflection of that intentionality.
But I don't you all think that the internet and social media has played a role in that's different for your generation than it was for Gen Xers? Gervais, as you are you Megan? Are you Gen Z?
Well, I call myself a young ex elder millennial because I'm like right on the cusp. So
Okay.
I'm technically an ex, but I'm right before the millennials started.
Okay, and I hear the older millennials are different than the younger millennials. Like when you talk to millennials, even amongst you all, you say y'all distinguish yourself. I'm not.
I didn't know that.
Babies, the 80s babies are different now. The 90s,
Yeah, I agree. Older
Okay.
millennials are a little
the
different
80s
than
millennials didn't grow up with technology in this way. So I don't think we were outside playing. Like we saw the development of the
Okay.
internet. We saw the release of cell phones. We didn't grow up scrolling like,
Okay.
some other people have.
Yeah.
Okay.
I heard
So
someone said we were the last generation to be bored.
Yes.
And there's a beauty in
Oh,
having to use your imagination, and you don't get to just be completely inundated with information on the internet all the time. You have to sit there and think of something, right? Because we didn't have a phone all the time. We didn't have internet. TV's turned off at a certain time. And in terms of the breakdown, in even some of the conversations I've had with, either older Xers or baby boomers, I feel like sometimes what has been fought so hard for especially women to have voices, but there's still a part of like, but okay, but now you have too many emotions. It's too much.
ah,
And so I've kind of disputed that a little bit to say, but it's like, but this is what this is what we wanted, for people to tap into their feelings. But there's sometimes what I've heard is a sense of, but now it's too many emotions, because I think what worked was put your head down and you work, you're kind of quiet, but you're also trying to find a voice. And so I think how women in prior generations have found success feels unfamiliar or unrelatable to somebody who's speaking out about their feelings all the time.
Ah, that's a good point. Oh, well, I want to get Gervais in here because you're listening to all of this. What's your perspective?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes.
So what I was gonna say was, for me, with what I've seen in my family, I definitely think breakdown was lack of softness and not having any room for a genuine woman to woman conversation. It's very much so, this is what you do, this is what you do, and this is what you do, and that's it. I remember, and like I said, I have a boomer mom. I would have to pull teeth to get my mom to say I love you back.
Mm,
Yeah, it was like pull teeth to get her to just give me some type of emotion. When my mom would cry and I would try to comfort her, she was like, no, you don't comfort someone when they cry. You're gonna make me cry more. And I'm like, no, I'm trying to be there for you. I'm trying to give you the softness that you need in this moment. And I also feel like I noticed this dynamic with a lot of the women in my family where um, the moms are so hard on their daughter, and
yes.
you get softness from somebody outside of the family unit, the
Teach,
the
girl.
auntie, the cousin, or something. But
Ouch.
the mom is so hard on the daughter, right?
Teach.
And so if they get in trouble, if they do something, they tell the cousin or they tell their auntie, but they can't tell the mom. And then if you and I've been in this situation before where my cousin confided in me about something, and I said, you really got to tell your mom. And I said, I'm not going to tell her. You need to tell her, right? And she didn't feel comfortable to do it. And then it fell back on me, like, well, why wouldn't you tell her? Well, I'm like, well, that's not my place to do that. I encouraged her, and I told her I would go with her, right? Because I'm the one in my family that's trying to bring us all together and encourage more softness. But I think that not having safe spaces with the women directly that we see every day directly, I think in my family is a part of the reason why the breakdown happened. And also, like, assuming that every woman in the family is going to be exactly the same, because that's not realistic, right? Every woman has their own path. Some women are going to be the free spirits. Some women are going to be the conservative ones. Some women are going to be um, the one that everyone like goes to for Sunday dinner. Like, there's going to be just different roles that everybody plays, and I think sometimes we want all the women in the family to be exactly the same. So the moment that a woman comes, you know, she becomes older, she's like, this is the path I'm supposed to take. Well, no woman in my family has ever done that. And then to not feel discouraged because everyone's expecting you to be exactly the same as
Well,
all of the women.
you bring up a good point in terms of from breakthrough to sacred cycles. I know that Coriel has an appointment. I want her to enter in here. If when you think about the sacred cycles, this is for everyone, but I want Coriel to answer first before she leaves. Um, when you think of sacred cycles that you've been through already, what is the most sacred cycle that you went through that you wish somebody had told you dot dot dot? What is that thing so far?
Motherhood. It's been motherhood. Motherhood to me ripped the band-aid off of my mother wound. It's how I became so much more vocal about it, because obviously I've always known that it was there. But becoming a mother in the traumatic way that I entered motherhood, in terms of just my labor process and my postpartum process and those things, and realizing that not only was my mother, she was physically here, but emotionally was not there. And to the point where it was almost like she was choosing to not be there, and then telling me that she wasn't going to be there, and making it a point to not be there. And it was almost like a challenge, like, let's see how you can do this on your own. That's how I felt. That's how I took it. It was very much so, I'm going to help you with, I'm going to help you through helping the baby, but I'm not going to help you. That's how I felt. Like I love that baby, so I'm gonna do for the baby. But when it comes to you and what you might need, I'm not. That's not what I'm here for. So I feel like becoming a mother revealed more about my mother and also showed me the importance of being for my children what I didn't have as a child and what I still don't necessarily have as my mother's child. So that is a huge reason and motivation for the work that we do through my nonprofit and just the conversations that I have. Like I have a young, she must be Generation Z, a young girl who just had a baby last week, and I've been vigilant about checking in on her and telling her if you need anything, if you have a crazy question, if your man is getting on your nerves, if you need to vent, reach out to me, because we very rarely have those safe spaces in that season specifically where you have somebody that you can tell I just don't feel good. You have somebody where you can tell this baby getting on my damn nerves and I don't know what to do about it. Like we don't usually have those safe spaces, and I certainly didn't have it. And I feel like that is one of the most sacred seasons for a woman to enter into, and to enter into it and feel crazy as hell, because most of us do, especially first time moms, to go through those emotions, not know what you're doing, have the anxiety that comes with this new life that you're now responsible for, and dealing with your body being out of whack and your mental health just not being where it used to be. That to me has been like the biggest transition. And it's just so important that even if we are not mothers ourselves, to just be a listening ear, a meal, send a meal, like anything that you can do to support a mother, whether she's a first time mother or just bringing new life. It's so important because it truly does. There's so much research that I've done now post, becoming a mother, on like the impact that the first 6 months of a child's life plays on the rest of their life. And so if you can just be a support for those first 6 months, because if the mom is struggling, the baby's going to struggle in some sense. And so we literally can impact generations just by being there for a postpartum mother. So that to me has been like the most traumatic season. And I'm about to do it again. So please send your prayers, because it doesn't necessarily get easier with having another child. It's not just first time mothers. It's literally every time a child is born, a new version of you is born. And so that has
Oh,
been.
wow. Say that every time a child is born, a new version of you is born. So,
Yep.
can you close out about this new version of you that's been born?
Yes, and I'm so excited because it's so special to me to be here. I'm less than 30 days out from delivering my baby girl, my first baby girl. I have two boys here, but Dervay, Megan, Auntie, y'all were there when we did the process, and I didn't know that I was having a girl yet. But some of the things that we did were to me clues and confirmation that this child that I was carrying was a girl. And I was literally sharing that with y'all, not knowing. I mean, I felt it, but I didn't have confirmation that I was having a girl. So I really, truly, and I swear I'm not making this up. The day that I found out I was pregnant, it was like spirit told me this is my girl. Like when I told my husband I was pregnant, I'm like, this is our girl. Like I felt it and I knew it. And I really feel such a spiritual connection to this baby because I think it's a reflection of the work that I've done as a woman. The dark work, like the shadow work, the mother wound work that I've done to have these uncomfortable conversations, to not shy away from my feelings with my mother. Like everything y'all heard me say on the podcast about my mama, I have said to my mama. I have gone to the source and spread myself, like busted open, and told her all of the things that I felt, even though it was uncomfortable, embarrassing, shameful, whatever. I feel like me now carrying my daughter, who is the chain breaker, I feel like this is the culmination of all the work that I've done as a woman. And this is like the prize, and the proof that I have completed or not completed, because you told me the process is never done, but this is the proof that I have, I'm going through the process and I'm the one, like I am her in my lineage that is doing it different. And now I'm just able to bring even greater, woman, feminine energy into the world. So yes, I'm very excited and honored to be birthing a baby girl who will have a different experience with her mother than all of the other women in my family.
Wow, that's wonderful. And we're excited to have her because she's being born into a community of aunties. Uh,
Hmm.
and we, so you got to get ready to share her. And remember, the process really is not over. It is children are God in work clothing. That's what Iyanla says. You have
Mhm.
you have not met God until you get tested by the thing that you birth. And so, even though you have this fantasy, I'm telling you this publicly, be prepared
Oh,
that.
this is getting me together already. I already see it coming. I already see it coming. You ain't got to warn me. That's why I said, don't let me in 10 years so we can talk about what I've gotten back in return. I can feel it coming. She ain't
Oh,
playing no games.
wonderful. Well, thank you for sharing that because that
Mhm.
opens up us to continue this conversation with Sacred Cycles. And of course, you all know that you can listen to Coriel's podcast on all platforms, right? Right?
All platforms, yep.
Okay.
Thank
All
you for
right.
having
Did
me,
you
Auntie.
put
I
did you put
appreciate
your,
you.
I'm sorry.
No,
Did
go
you put
Go
it
ahead.
ahead.
in the
Wait,
chat where I'm sorry, the name of her social.
okay. Yes. Go ahead,
Yes,
Coriel. What
please
you
do.
were saying?
I was just gonna say thank you for having me. I am so sorry y'all have to run. I literally have to get to the doctor to check out this baby, but I appreciate y'all. Thank you, Megan and Dervay,
You're
for your
welcome.
spirit, your energy, Carmen.
I'm so happy for
I love
you.
you so much.
I
Yes,
love
Karen,
you.
it was so nice to meet you, and Auntie, always,
I
always.
love
And you,
you. I
thank
love
you.
you, sweetheart.
All right, talk to y'all.
So,
Enjoy the conversation.
yeah, so these sacred cycle conversations bring up also physical, not just now. Coriel talked about the emotional, but also there's a physical aspect that we also don't have not talked about. Like, when this perimenopause pregnancy conversation kind of goes together because Coriel highlighted the physical, but the emotional. Would you all like to share anything else in terms of a sacred cycle that you went through and experienced you wish someone had told you? What would that be?
Well, for me, it wasn't some event, some certain thing. I think just coming into adulthood. When I went away from college, from my little town, is when I felt the freest. Being away from what I perceived as judgment of how I am, or being perceived as different, different from or whatever. And I could have been wrong, but I needed for someone to be accepting of how I am and encouraging and saying that it's okay for you to be this way. And so I did, and I did pack it down some, but it was over when I went to college, um, and I was able to be myself. But right after college, right when I was getting ready to leave college, I fell right into the program. I decided, I already know that I decided, okay, so now it's time for the husband and the kids and the picket fence. So I decided, I know that I did that because of the program. This is what they did on Leave It to Beaver.
Yeah, 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 yeah.
Well, maybe the Cosby Show for you people who might not know. Leave It to Beaver might be too old, but yeah, sorry, sorry about that. But yeah, so so I needed the permission to be who I am today. And so so later on now, almost 50, when I divorced and was at divorced at 48, then I was the one who gave myself the permission then to be like that, to be myself. And I knew that it would look different to my kids. And I had to just, because I had now the baby boomers that's in my chair now telling me, girl, you ain't got no babies. You better go live your life. The boomers that used to tell us to hush hush. Now my boomers that's in my chair, my old lady gang that be in my salon, the motherboard of the salon.
Uh-huh.
Now they saying different stuff now. Well,
Mm-hmm.
we couldn't do like y'all did. We didn't work. We couldn't do like y'all did. We didn't have a choice. We had to depend on them. You ain't got no babies.
Yeah,
All of them would tell me to get out there, girl.
yeah, yeah,
It changed. And so
yes.
but I'm learning so much here from these different generations. I done learned a whole lot today. Not just from the generation change, but the Caribbean. You said so. The culture of your Caribbean mom is even tougher than Gen X is tough. And then you got a baby boom mama, and she a Caribbean. So yeah, you all right?
You know what? I have this community, and I
Yeah, but
have to say, this community has helped me a whole lot with being all right, for
and
sure.
you have taught me, and you really ate me all the way up for my Gen Zer. You know, the not having the softness. I realized that my daughter so much wanted me to be touching and hugging and loving, and I'm like, man, you too big. You need to get up off me, man.
Listen,
Touching.
I was talking to another millennial, because a lot of the women that I end up doing a lot of stuff with in Atlanta are millennials. And it was a millennial who said she was teaching her daughter to toughen up, not cry. And then it was several other millennials at that table who said, "Yeah, me too." But they had these soft girls who had emotions. Like to your point, Megan, you said too many emotions, but I think about, I didn't realize that it was more boomers raising millennials. I would in my for, I'm like, where were we? Where was Gen X that we're not raising the millennials, but we were raised by boomers who strongly told us not to bring no babies up in their house.
Okay, yeah, yeah, yeah,
And
yeah.
so we wasn't getting pregnant and doing all of that. In fact, I really believe that it's connected to a lot of the fertility issues psychologically that many of women have that we also don't talk about. We do not
Mm-mm.
talk about the women who are having fertility issues to this day because of these hidden messages of doing something wrong when it came to getting pregnant. So I didn't realize it was boomers raising millennials because my mom was a boomer. So
No.
she was tough. I mean, she was very tough, and I'm a sensitive Gen Xer who kind of like is different, like Karen. But I don't know. I think that many of us in Gen X are different. There's a lot who went along with the program, but I think many Gen Xers are just now starting to talk about the trauma because we
Yeah.
didn't talk about it. We just kind of went on and did our own thing, got far
Mm-hmm.
away from it, but not knowing why. I think with you all, Carmen, as millennials, y'all kind of know why you don't want anything to do with it. Like you saw, I heard you say something that made me think about the hypocrisy that you saw.
Mm,
That
mm.
could make we saw it too, though. Let me be very clear that as Gen Xers, we saw them boomers go to church on Sunday and be laid up with somebody else's husband on Monday or Tuesday night.
Yeah, I just think that we, like I kind of pointed out before, I think as society evolves, people change, right? Like you said, we're seeing now a society of kids who are super sensitive, right? And it's like, we have that issue now. And I call it an issue because I do think it's a bit of an issue. I think it impacts the way people connect with one another. There's an adverse reaction to rejection, the feedback, criticism,
Correction.
correction. So we've gone a little too far now. But I say all that to say, like, I am the black sheep of my family. Like, I'm the first one to move away. I'm in Atlanta, they're in Virginia. I'm the one with the big ideas. My dad was like that. He was like that, but he's passed on. He passed in 2020. But speaking about the relationship with moms, you're right. Seeing how they show up, I think, is really triggering for millennials because as we learned more, we went off to school, we learned things that we took back home, and we said, hey, this is
Yeah.
what I learned at college. Right, this is what I learned since I've been out in the world. And everybody's still kind of doing the things that they used to do, and I think that was a bit frustrating for our generation, and we wanted to just be like, is anybody in there? Is anybody here? Is anybody home? you know
Okay.
Wow, wow. So let's bring it in terms of sacred cycles as well in terms of women because I see you all's comments. I'm gonna have to pull your comments in just a minute, So anything you want me to see, go ahead and drop it in there. We're in a the collective consciousness right now is experiencing a little bit of everything, and so we're absorbing so much information. People are a little bit more open about going to therapy, but there still are sacred cycles of womanhood that we don't talk about. And one of the things that Coriel mentioned that I do feel like is another example, and I would like to invite more, particularly those of you in the comments, when she said that I grew up with a lot of aunties and cousins who had babies but didn't have men. Now I'm a Gen Xer, and I can say that I absolutely saw that. I did not see well-loved women in my family. And I mean well loved by their husband. The divorces broke down our families bit by bit. On one side of the family there were marriages, but they broke down. On another side of the family, no, there was no man ever. And now you have such an independence energy where the women are becoming like men in terms of how they date, how they share their body, how they hold sexuality, all of that. And I do think that there's a sacred cycle of womanhood that is being co-opted, that's become GMO, if you will, where you have both generations, Gen X, millennials, and Gen Z, who have no idea how to be a wife because they have not seen well-loved women.
That is so me.
That's so
That is
you.
so. Yeah, I actually took a couple master classes on that because I want to be a good wife, and I didn't necessarily want to repeat what I saw.
What did you
So,
see?
I saw abuse, and I saw separation, but still living together.
Ah.
Yeah, where and I've told my mom that maybe we should leave. I've said that to my mother before, but my mom was very much Catholic, and the idea of divorcing or anything like that was just unheard of. And that's what I saw a lot in my family. Women who marriage is really important to my family, but I feel like oftentimes the women in my family have married the wrong man or got pregnant before they were married. And because marriage is taken very seriously in my family, it's like, you pregnant, what you gonna do? You better go walk down that aisle. You know what I'm saying? Like, there's not a lot of people in my family who had children out of wedlock. There's going to be a lot of pressure on you to get married.
Wow.
But
Is that
because
a
of that,
cultural thing though? Because of the
yes, that too. It is
okay.
a very big thing in my country too. Being the shame you'll experience having a child out of wedlock is
Wow, the
really, really severe.
colonization of it all, because Haiti is such a powerful place, to think that now they've been inundated with shame and that type of you mentioned jealousy and protecting your success. That's very, very interesting perspective. Anyone else, sacred cycle that maybe we haven't touched on that you wish somebody had told you about?
Yeah, I was going to add from a physical perspective around your body. So as you go through sacred cycle of just the hormonal changes, the changes physically and how your body looks after you have a child, like what that does to you psychologically and emotionally. Because if you don't have, I wish somebody would have walked me through, like, your body's going to look different. I remember the first time I delivered and the clothes I brought, I don't know why I thought it was going to be the same size when I walked out. And I was like, oh man, the pants don't fit. Like, but no one told me. So, and just like learning to say it's going to look different, and that's okay. This is a part of the process. It's a new, you're learning and to love a new version of yourself. And
Mm.
so walking through that alone, again, like for me, it was really lending on my sister friends to help me through that, and us sharing our shared experiences versus being told what, number one, to expect that, but then helping walk you through with, someone holding your hand saying, this is how you might feel. And that's okay. That's normal. A lot of women feel that way.
Wow. Okay. Anyone else? You wish someone had told you about a sacred cycle that you had to walk through alone, you could have used?
I think speaking back about the marriages and how to be a wife, I am a divorcee as well. I coming up on a year in July. It was a year in July since I've been divorced. But
I didn't
um
know that.
yes, yes. And so, my family, the women in my family always had a man. They always had a man, but not
Mm.
necessarily the right man. And so, I grew up in a household. My father loved him dearly, but him and my mother did not mix at all. Right. And so, just to your point of not really seeing the women in my life be loved properly,
Hmm.
and seeing them having to take on a more masculine role,
Yeah.
um, that passed down to me. That trait passed down to me. So I think that showed up in my marriage. And I kind of was just doing it by myself. Like, I didn't really have any guidance, and I think that really contributed to my divorce, honestly. So I wish somebody would have sat me down and gave me some words of wisdom ahead of time.
Wow.
Mm.
Wow. Is there anything you want to add, Karen?
I want to ask this thing about marriage and the training for it and everything. I want to know from you young people, do you really think that you can be trained to be one? I know I can tell from your conversation that your idea of marriage is not what you saw us do. So I'm saying, do you need the training, or because y'all so free now, can't y'all have a discussion? 'Cause now y'all don't have the problem of the guys who, saying that the woman need to be in the house barefooted and stuff. I don't think y'all have that problem. Do you? Do we still have that
Some
problem,
people are
millennials?
still some people still have that mindset,
Okay,
that
well, okay, that's
traditional,
what, that's the breakdown.
but often too, I find this is interesting that we're saying this, because my response was going to be, the sacred cycle was going to be dating, like,
Yeah.
before getting married. I
Wow,
wish
good,
somebody
good.
really sat me down, because I grew up like, no, you stay away from boys, no boys, no boys, no boys. I was super afraid of dating, and then I got older, and it's like, why you don't have a man? Where's your man? So I never had anybody really walk me through how to do that, until I had, like, one of my cousins was like, what kind of man do you want? I was like, I don't know. Like, so I definitely think dating and how to be a wife, there needs to definitely be more conversation about that.
Hmm.
Um, so that way, when a woman enters that phase in her life, she can do it from a place of power.
Mm,
Yeah.
mm-mm.
And you got to get yourself around some aunties. Now, Dr. Latanya, when she tells the stories of the women in her family, those are the kind of women that I wanted in mine.
Yes.
The
Oh, I
ones that
wish.
gonna
Oh, I
tell
love
you.
when she
They gonna.
tells you.
And I'm
I
talking
love
about the
when she
one
tells the
that come tell
stories.
you that their mama might not say nothing, but the auntie gonna come over there. Girl, look, don't listen to that.
I forget your mom's the name of your mom's crew, but Dr. Latanya, they just seem so cool. I love when you tell the
Yeah.
stories about.
I mean, that's what I'm saying. Y'all don't really want it from us. You do not want to hear how we did it.
Yeah,
You don't
but
need to
see,
learn it
okay.
from us.
Well, I mean, they were cool, right? But most of them ended up not having husbands. But I don't necessarily, I never thought to like define them by it, but it was other things that were contradictory that I experienced with
Mhm,
them. But yeah, they talk freely about sexuality.
mhm.
Honey, they had
They
confidence.
walked it.
They
They, you
rolled
could tell.
they rolled in a crew. I mean, if one fought, the other one was fine. My mother and her crew have stories that could be lifetime movies. And I'm so grateful as my mother gets to be is 89 now. We were together as a family, and what would happen is when the crew was together, they would talk and tell stories. Yeah, girl, Alice was the one who would dot dot dot. And so
Mhm.
they would tell on each other, and we would be listening. And I remember the story. So as her memory gets a little faded sometimes, I was like, oh, I know the story. So having a griot in the family is very, very helpful. And, my mom also was one who talked about money management, but I did not listen. And sometimes she would tell me things that had an edge on it of don't trust no man. So one day I remember my mom getting into one of her spaces, and she was talking this stuff, talking her stuff. Pop, 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 pop. And she was talking about men and men this and don't trust them, honey, honey. And as far as you can see them, you don't trust them and that. And so I'm just sitting there, Deb, listening. I'm grown now. By this time, I can say something. I said, so, Mama, if you feel that way about men, do you like women? She said, now you done lost your damn mind, girl. You done lost your goddamn mind. What are you talking about? So in that moment, though, I was being tongue in cheek, but I was trying to really just say to them how I used to see them sit around and run down men. That generation in the South are notorious for that. And I do think where you grow up matters, but I do want to, I'm sure each of you have some stories that you all could tell as well. But did we leave anything off the table? Sacred cycles you wish somebody had told you? And please
Yeah.
put it in the comments.
I have something else that I don't hear a lot of women talk about is dating after you're divorced. How to
Yeah.
not date like a wife. When you're speaking from someone who was married for a long time, you start to identify and show up as the wife. And so when you start to date, you make some mistakes in that because no one teaches you how to date as a single woman, not as a wife. It doesn't mean you don't want to get married again, but I signed up for some things I didn't know because all I knew how was to be a wife. And you have to relearn who you are as an individual, as a single woman, and as a mother, and how you show up in the world, especially in dating. And I'm sure someone's talked about it, but I haven't heard anyone talk about it.
Wow. Yeah, that's a good point. That's
I
That
think
is a very good point.
I think it also goes back to how you were raised and how your mom was and your aunt was and that all of that kind of thing. Because I really didn't have that much of an adjustment period after I got divorced because my mom wasn't really a mom that talked a lot about marriage. She's even when she got married, she wasn't one of those women that had to be married. And I wasn't one of those women in turn. Like I wasn't putting together, picking out my wedding dress, looking at my ring. Like if I got married, I got married. And if I didn't, I didn't. And so I think that also, again, contributed to my divorce because I kind of showed up in my marriage kind of like a free woman. You know what I mean? I wasn't
That's
in the
true. A lot of women are right now.
yeah. Yeah. So I wasn't fitting the traditional mold, and my husband was very traditional. And so when I got out of my relationship, I was back out there and I didn't have much adjusting to do because of my upbringing and how I am as a person. So
How long were you married?
that's a good point you're making. So we were together for 5 years and married for 1. So that's how quickly we got in. We're like, oh, this ain't gonna work. Okay. And we got out. So anyway, I said all that to say it's a great point you're making, Megan, but I do think it goes back to how we were raised, how our mother showed up, and all of that.
Well,
So do you want to?
wait. I think that perimenopause has been the humbling factor for me. Because I'm a very resourceful person, and because when you grow up with women who, well, the first place I went to were the women in my family, and the first thing I said, why didn't you tell me about this? That's how this got born. I went to the women in my family and said, why didn't you tell me about perimenopause? I've heard y'all talking about menopause. They didn't know because, and then that opened up the conversation about how many women, this is important, clock this, how many boomers had hysterectomies. And that links to hormonal imbalance and mental health issues. So many boomers who had hysterectomies that were raising us, they didn't know what was going on with them. They didn't know energetic. That's why some of them were so mean and unfulfilled. Because when you link hysterectomy and being on hormonal medicine, it throws off your whole balance. And I guarantee you, if we took a poll, how many women who are Gen Xers have women in their family who had hysterectomies, the numbers would be off of the chart. So that was like a aha moment when I start polling the women in my family. Then I start polling the women outside that were close to me. I even went to a Yamla. I was like, you teach everything else. You talk about everything else. Why didn't you talk about perimenopause? She's like, because I ain't have that. And so this is something that we all want, back to you all's point, we assume that everything we're experiencing, they experienced, and I went to that they, they were withholding. So um I want to go into the comments really quick because I missed comments all the way to your menstrual cycle. So I understand. Okay, so Carmen, thank you so much. Are there any closing thoughts that you want to add before you go in terms of sacred cycles and where we can follow your group?
Yes, I mean, I just think this is such an important conversation, and I hope you keep the conversation going.
Yeah, we're
I
gonna
think,
have to do another part.
yeah, there's so much healing that
All
needs
right.
to be done. And so many things that we do in our current lives that we're unaware of where it comes from and all that good stuff. So I think this is a great conversation. You can find me on social media at carmen.nicole.jones. That's carmen.nicole.jones. And my organization, the Black Girl Social Club, is also on Instagram. So the
Thank
Black Girl Social Club.
Well, thank you, niece. I look forward to talking to you soon.
You. I
Thank you for
appreciate
joining.
you.
I appreciate you.
Bye,
Okay,
ladies.
bye bye. Okay, so I want to capture some of these comments. And Karen, if you have to do hair while you do it, might as well showcase your talent. Okay. So Chantel said menopause. I had no idea when I had my partial. Okay, you had partial menopause. To explain that, because honey, one menopause has a qualification. Menopause, you're not in menopause until you have gone 12 months without a cycle. Ask me how I know, because I was counting those days. I'll never forget when I went off, just like I'll never forget when I came on. I will never talk about sacred cycles. I will never forget when I went off, because I suffered in the beginning and I suffered in the end. I have gained weight, more weight than my body has ever held, and that did stuff to me. At the same time, I was initiated and I was in a spiritual process, so I didn't know what was going on, and I felt like my body was betraying me. And there were times where I definitely felt like my womb had betrayed me many times when I thought I was pregnant and I didn't, or I didn't hold a pregnancy at a time. I felt like there was betrayal from my womb. And we don't these are things we don't talk about openly all the time because there's shame there. But and not that we walk in the shame, but just the people who come to you. You ain't had no baby yet. Well, you better give that man a baby. Those are the comments we grew up hearing, by the way.
Yeah.
So tell us more what you mean by partial menopause, because perimenopause can last anywhere from, a couple of years to 10, 15 years, because it can start in your 30s. So hopefully, partial hysterectomy, and my doctor diagnosed me with full blown menopause. Got you. That's another good point, Chantel, because the women who had hysterectomies also got thrown into full blown menopause while they were
Right.
raising us.
Young. And so I know some that had a hysterectomy in her 30s, and she started going through menopause early. I had an ablation done. That's when they just burned the lining of the uterus. So I haven't had a cycle since after I had my daughter, and that she's 21. So I mean, I was glad for the freedom now. Woo. But I mean, but I mean, I didn't have the signs like you said for the cycle thing to point to menopause.
Yeah.
All I know is I was in Atlanta in the food court area with a guy who I was in, and it just started. I started getting so hot until I was panicking around the courtroom trying to find a pamphlet or something to fan with. He didn't know what I was doing, but I was panicking.
Hmm.
And when I finally got something, I was standing there fanning, and I was looking around. And I noticed wasn't nobody else acting like a monkey but me. I said, "You not hot? No, nobody's hot." And said, I said, that's when I said, oh, is this what this is?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And ever since then, I've been having them. And
Wow.
I've heard many stories in my chair. Some one year, I remember one summer, it seemed like maybe 4 to 5 women got a hysterectomy. I was wondering, is this stuff catching? Because like I had women come in my salon with a pillow. That's how I knew. They come in with a pillow.
Well, the thing is, there was a period where doctors, that was their first recourse when a woman had anything. So there's
Yeah,
a whole lot of documentation about the medical industry and how they were taking the wombs of Black women in particular. This was not happening in other cultures, but particularly Black women were having their wombs snatched out, left and right. And that's another show, another conversation, but it does play a role of how we were raised when we talk about how mean, strict, or how the baby boomers expected us not me, but I hear people talk about how the boomers wanted their children to raise the children that they had. Y'all didn't talk about it here, but there was a lot of expectations that boomers put on their children to be responsible for the younger children. But I want to get some of these comments. Welcome, Tammy. Tammy said, my aunts were always honest with me, and I appreciate that so much. Um, so Dana said, welcome, Dana. Dana said the sacred cycle is putting daughters on birth control. That's a good one. Oh my goodness.
I did. I
I
had that
know
done
about that.
at
That
14. At
yeah,
14.
as soon as you got your cycle, many mothers put their children on birth control, especially if you had rough cycles. They say, "Oh, I'm gonna put you on birth control because that's going to
Yeah,
help you out, regulate you." And it ended up having a long-term effect on a lot of women's fertility. Thank you, Dana, for mentioning that.
mm,
Another sacred cycle, Tony says, releasing your children into young adulthood. Ooh,
Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
wow.
I remember the fear that came to me that I was like, no one told me about this. Like you worry about your children when they're young, right? And you're trying to keep them safe. But then that moment that my oldest was getting ready to go to college, I was like, oh my God, I can't watch him. Like all of a sudden this fear came of like what happens if you get into the wrong thing and like you don't come home every night anymore.
Mm.
And learning to trust that you've given them everything you could and they'll be okay. But I
Read
never,
that differently because that's so funny. You read it that way, but I also thought about how we had to grow up fast.
yeah.
That's how I read it. We
mm,
we had to grow up fast. We walked to school. There was I Karen, did you walk to school?
I did. Latchkey kids. Ain't
We
made it
were
home
the
before mama. You got the
yeah.
key to the house. We had the key around the neck. You had to open the door up. You better take the meat out. You better clean up. And you better cook before she get home. You better dump that homework. You got all that to do in 30 minutes.
oh
And
yeah,
you got to do your homework by yourself. There
yeah,
is no do you better do that homework and nobody
Yes.
better call your house from
mm-hmm,
Can you imagine?
you could
Imagine a Gen X having to raise kids and feeling the pressure of having to sit there with that homework. These other mothers, they fantastic. They younger and they kids doing they bringing all the little bags to school, they homework, and they just checking all the papers. And I'd be like, did y'all do y'all homework? That's me. You better get in
yeah,
there and do it. Y'all better pay attention to class. That's
oh
it.
yeah,
You better pay attention because I don't know how to do that stuff.
oh yeah. I was catching buses to other cities before I turned double digits. If I was at one parent's house or the other.
oh wow. Okay. All right.
Mhm.
So I don't know if that's what you meant, Dana, but we heard it differently. But that you brought in a good point in terms of literally releasing, because I do think that the many of the Gen Xers smothered the millennials that made them like the and Gen Zers. Like the quintessential song. I don't want my children to go through what I went through. So now that's why they're so soft. But anyway, let's keep going. So now we have Dana brought up elder care. Now that is big right now
Ooh, whew.
Yes.
because I tell you, I have seen many friends lose parents, but nobody prepares you for watching your parents slip. away. They're aging
Mm-hmm.
and they become your children. So she said, in future self elder care, my offspring have asked about retirement homes and such. It planted the seed. That's a good point. I didn't think about that. Woo.
Mm-hmm.
Tony
Now we could
underscores
be.
that. Elder care, are you prepared to care for your parents? That's a valid question. Are you all prepared? Have you had conversations in your families about elder care planning? How are you going to access any savings accounts or bank accounts? Do you have your property in order, in your paperwork in order, so it doesn't have to go into probate court? Are you clear who is running the lead in the family, or is it going to cause a breakdown between brothers and sisters? Do you have to do a GoFundMe because you all don't have any savings plan? These are it's a little different than sacred cycles, but eldership for us and for them is a sacred cycle
Mm-hmm.
that people don't want to talk about. Let me see what else I missed. I did not have any examples of healthy marriages or relationship, and the mothers were so overwhelmed they couldn't parent from a place of love, only survival. That is spoken like a true woman that is whole. You got to know Tammy, y'all. She really does
Mm-hmm.
her work, but that's a great catch. That's very true. That's very true. They couldn't parent from a place of love, many of
And,
them.
and speaking of the survival thing, mindset, that is why we so hard on our girls. But I have a question, like the baby boomers, they couldn't work, and you know what I'm saying, they had to live. So why were they so hard on us? Did they see and think maybe one day women are gonna get the freedom to do this stuff, and y'all need to be prepared? Because why was y'all reason for being so tough?
Well, I know
The
for
baby boomers, we need the baby boomer here because
I
they were.
Okay, well, we'll do another show with
Hmm.
baby boomers. We'll have another show with some boomers. But I
Hmm.
know that they want. I used to hear that, I want you to be able to take care of yourself and not
Okay.
depend on a man, because silent generation was the generation. Oftentimes, they could not have a bank account. They could not own their own property. That's how you get the psychology of you need a man as an ATM machine or as a covering. Because in
Hmm.
the 1800s, many of the women could not own anything. They were that's why
Right.
the vows say man and wife. They don't call her man and woman. That came later. Wife was considered property. So we need to be careful when we didn't even get on religion and how it played a role in our traumas as well. You touched on it a
Absolutely.
little bit, Dervay, with the Catholicism, the shame, and all of that.
Hmm.
But that's where that comes from, Karen. Is that
Yeah. Well,
it went to the other extreme, because boomers saw their mothers be passive and not have a voice through that imbalance.
and they wanted a voice, but at the same time, they were telling us this: don't trust them, no man, all this, and don't
That
let your left hand know what the right. But at the same time, telling you you're supposed to be submissive to your man now, and you need to be his cheerleader and talk to him in a calm motherly voice and cheer him up and all this. At the same time,
yeah,
they gave
contradict
us both of those,
that
and
contradict.
so yeah, and so now that's why. And so what did I give my daughter? When I listen to this Gen Z here, she is talking to me. My daughter is talking to me through her. And
Uh,
so, and I see where I did, because Gen X do have a reason to let our daughters know you need to be independent, girl, because mama and them had said, don't let your left hand know what your right hand do. So now I'm trying to adjust. I like to feel like I'm a little loose. I can deal with the millennials. I got two of them working. The millennials all around me, and I'm telling you, they keep their foot on my neck. I love it though. You know what
yeah,
I'm saying?
they
They
will.
do. They
I
keep their foot on my neck.
They will. I will mention. They will keep their foot on your neck. I will
Yeah,
tell you.
they
Shout
do.
out.
I'm just.
Shout out to the millennials in the comments.
They do.
Y'all some of
Uh-huh.
us. Whew. And what
Oh yeah.
I used to couldn't stand y'all, and then I
But
had to.
they write about a lot. They
Yeah,
write about a lot of stuff. They set you straight, you know what I'm saying? And they don't let you fall. They ain't gonna let me fall out to be some old gal. They not gonna let it. They won't even let me go. If I look at something that look like a kitten heel, they got something to say.
Well, I'm gonna wear a kitten heel, honey, because I can't wear the 6 inches. I want to walk.
They were back for a while though.
They
Talk-
gonna have to find a better way to make it, baby. I need the wide kitten here. I don't want that little bitty one. That's something. I saw some that had a big wide, was round. I said, y'all, but this looks French, eh? This is French. It's not quite this kitten here. It's the wide, fat one. And they wouldn't. But I do love them.
I
I'm
remember
learning.
my boomer aunt who used to say,
Mm,
"Oh, baby, you gonna come down out those heels. Just keep on."
yes,
She said,
they
"Wear them,
come.
wear them while you can. You gonna come down."
Yeah,
And so
yeah.
I saw her when I came home. Now I said, "Well, you spoke a curse over my life."
Yes, indeed. They would always look at me. I remember, girl, when I used to wear them, girl. I sure
Mhm.
did, babe. And now I'm up there looking at the young girls, girl. Now I'm doing it.
So Sabrina, you said every
Mhm.
time she talks about it, I want to invite myself to sit. Who were you talking about?
Your aunties.
Oh, the auntie, my aunties. Oh, I should write a little skit or play for the characters we had over there on Lutetia Street in Vicksburg,
Mm.
Mississippi, baby.
Let
So
me ask you, Latanya, was your aunts and were they? I know Miss Phelps, Miss and Miss Fox. I want to know more about these women. I know I have said that to you again. I know that these women or some of your family members were friends with these ladies, right? And they were just the bosses to me. They were bosses, and
with a
I
name
pattern.
like Fox, I mean a name like Fox.
Yeah.
So you
When I
got
saw her, I'd always see her in her Cadillac. I know she had white hair, and we thought she was white, and so I would call her like Miss Chancellor. But they were bosses to me. I didn't know enough. But I'm saying when you say this stuff, to me, those were the women I celebrated as a girl, baby. I wish I could have been ear to some of the stuff. Now I heard some earful of some stuff in the hood now, and it wasn't all that bad, but but it was a little different. And but those women today, I want to know more about them.
oh wow, we just have to bring in the elders. So
I'm trying to find somebody to tell me
Tony
about them.
Tony says sacred cycle for me is my soul cycles when I need to rest, student and work, teacher. Okay, yes
Mm.
indeed. Because yeah, my mother always is asking me, "You working, baby?" I was like, "Mama, I don't work all the time. Can I rest? Can I take a break?" And then when I get sick, she's like, "See, you work too much. You need to take a break." So, so, um, so
Uh,
Tony also said I witnessed marriages, but it was unhealthy. My mom was not well loved. My parents are still together today, 57 years later. Now, I don't know, is this a Southern thing? Because in our generation, we saw people who stayed together, but they had a girlfriend around the corner. And what we didn't know is that mama might have had somebody that was stepping in too a little bit. Now, I'm telling you, this is something that me
mhm.
and my older Gen X friends talk about a lot. Yeah, so when they're out here talking about mamas that stayed together, they stayed together, but they also had other things going on. Is that just a Southern thing? Anybody?
No,
I'm
that's on the West Coast too.
Somebody help.
West Coast too. Okay,
Uh-huh.
let me go to the comments. I'm asking in the comments. Was that just a Southern thing, y'all? And anybody from New York? Did y'all do that
Yes, yes, yes.
in the
Please
boroughs?
help us out. Please help us out.
Yeah, was this something y'all did in Chicago too? Talk to us.
It should have been easier in Chicago, in New York and Chicago, right? They had more big buildings and tall buildings to hide in. I mean, I just it should have been a little bit easier because we people had to here had to deal with it right around on the next street, baby. Maybe two streets over.
I am too congested to laugh. I just can't.
Two streets over, baby. Paw round there to Miss Farland's house round there, baby. Two streets over.
Oh
I'm
my
just saying.
God.
In the South.
Yes. Well, I know
Mm-hmm.
you all got to get back to work. We're gonna wrap it up in a minute. So answer this question if you're still watching. Was this just a Southern thing? Because the South can be a pagan place. That's what we call it, honey. So Tammy said you also need to have conversations with your spouse. If you're married, oh, that's a good one about
Mm-hmm.
caring for your parents in sickness and in health. Does not just mean spouses. Good
Yeah.
point. Good
Mm-hmm.
point. All right.
Wow. Amazing.
Okay, okay, Sabrina said, yeah, me talking about my aunties. That makes me so happy. That
Ooh.
really makes me so happy because I certainly have had to heal a mother wound, but when I celebrate who they were, I grew up in a family of matriarchs and they were fine. Tina Turner fine. They stepped out. They had beautiful legs. They wore nice clothes.
Mm-hmm.
But they came from rough beginnings, from poverty.
That
And
bitch done, baby.
those ladies in my family, shout out to some of you. I don't want to call a whole lot of names and all of that in this world today. People use that information, but yeah, thank you. That makes me happy that
They were the bosses, baby. They were bosses
you
before.
remember
Hey,
them. You
they
remember
were they were bosses to me.
them? Oh
And
wow.
then to know that they still had some thug thizzle on it too, baby.
Oh,
That's all I
they
need.
had,
Hey,
yeah, they
baby,
were pretty
hey,
thugs. Pretty thugs. Pretty thugs.
yes.
Yes.
I'm saying Miss Phelps. Man, I'm talking about, I love that lady, man. I was afraid of her. She was beautiful, but she had a mustache. But she had them big rings, baby. I'm talking about, baby, drive the big hog. I'm just saying. Lil' Kim, them, baby, y'all don't know nothing. Megan, them, baby, y'all don't know nothing. Not, nah.
Tammy says, yes, it was like we had to figure it out on our own when it was time to become young adults. No one told us about credit. Now, Tammy, I know you can talk on that. We didn't know about credit. We didn't. Well, my mom did kind of tell me a little bit. I ain't gonna lie. My mama is the money woman. Okay, so
Wow.
my mama used to talk so much. If she would say, "Baby, I know how to take a dime and make it 15 cents."
And you didn't think that was cool, Latanya? You
I,
didn't think that was
I
cool, dog?
do now, but yeah, I just did. We didn't know what we didn't know. So
Ooh, baby.
Chantel says the same thing. I wish I had listened to my mother about finances. Um,
Mm.
okay, all right.
Baby.
So I think let me see. No, no New Yorkers. Okay, wait. Nope. I'm from Ohio, and my grandma and auntie had it going on in that way. See? Okay. Dana says it was like that in Virginia, so it's a generational thing. Okay. All right. All right. Yes. And so you agree, elements are cool. Man, oh man, I wish I had better financial guidance. This has been lively. What it means is we got to keep going with this conversation. So if you're watching and you were able to hang on, we with a panel we can't just do 1 hour because we won't be able to hear
Mm-hmm.
everybody. But if there were some topics I feel deserve their own show.
Yeah.
I thought that this was going to be a perimenopause show, but it ended up being the sacred cycles. So we'll have to
Yeah.
do one with some of the more health gurus in our community on perimenopause. And drop in the comments if there's something that came up today that you feel like we need to talk about. Anybody else, the things that you all felt like came up today, we need to chew on a little bit more that's on the panel. What could we chew on a little bit more? That elder care thing is a big one. Finances, and then what do you do? Um, we need to really have conversations about family banking.
Mm-hmm.
Cooperative economics. When other people come into this country, they do susus. Did you know that, many of you who are watching? How they do it, they plan. People who immigrate to this country, they agree, who are we helping this year? You put in this much in the pot, and then this one gets a house, or this one has a down payment on something. Then we keep on doing the susu, and then somebody else does it. So many of us in Black America don't know about how people are working behind the scenes. That's a form of family banking and investing, so that when people pass on, we don't see grandma's house as a burden. We're losing way too much property. And property is how you have freedom and land rights. So anybody else who wants it, in closing, what do you all want to close out with? Karen, I know you got to go make your money, so I'll give you the floor, my love.
Well, I just want to say I learned quite a bit today, and this type of discussion with the different generations is good for me because I have more than one generation coming here. I have some millennials clients and Gen Z and everything. I have some Gen Zs that I have helped to raise,
Yeah.
and so and now they own college, and their parents, their moms still, um, I don't want to say expect, they still know that I keep up with their girls still.
Yeah.
When I've been doing their hair since they were 5, and
Yeah.
so they know that I still be keeping up and say and put something in their ear and all of that.
Yeah.
And they're fine with that, and that makes me happy because it helps me in my career. There's a
Well,
lot that gets dumped. I don't want to say dumped on me, but people pour, we pour.
well, you said something too that also Carmen said, and I wonder if we should do a show on it. Let me know in the comments. You said I'm different, and you wanted to express your difference, but then you kind of fell in line. And then Carmen said, I'm the black sheep of my family. And I know for me, for many years, I've grown up feeling and believing that I am the black sheep. And to this day, I still am the different
Mhm.
one in my
Yeah.
family. And I wonder if we are it's a holy assignment to be the different one so that we could shift the generational
Right.
norms, if you will, and it's something that we seem to have in common. You all think we need to do a
Mhm.
show on that?
Yeah. Yeah. The millennials that I have in here, that's what I see them as. Is to me, I get the chance here in my building, and that's why I want to have my own. It's because I want to be to these young creatives with a wild self and they wild thoughts and their wild imagination and how they want to be. I want you get to be that here with me, and so I get to be to them who I did not have. I
Mm-hmm.
had to go be that at college.
Mm-hmm.
I was that at college.
Mm-hmm.
Oh yeah, I was all the way. That who I am now. That's who I was in college. And so when I got divorced and then I experienced my awakening, I felt her calling me back.
Ashe.
I said, wait a minute now. Cause you almost 50, girl. You can't do it like that now. That was too wide. You a mama and you finna be a grandma. So you're gonna have to find a way to upgrade that thing and
Uh-huh.
still be able to do it. So now I'm taking the permission to be able to do it. Now my sensual, sexual, funny, crazy, wild, imaginative self. I want to be able to do that, and I love the people around me to be able to do that. No,
You
I
just
want you to do that.
I want tell them millennials help you with technology, a Gen Z or so, whatever.
I'm a little better, man. I'm a little better. I got a millennial around here with the choke on me. I ain't kidding, man. Hey,
Yeah.
rough.
Yes, indeed. Okay, Dervey or Megan, which one, in closing, what do you think? What do you think, that you want to share about sacred cycles and what we need to continue to dialogue about?
Well, I'm going to quote you is to be the shift. So whether you got it or you didn't, make sure that you are the shift and that you are showing up and communicating, being honest, being the safe place, being the guider, being the example for how to be free, be honest, be open, be yourself, be powerful, and be everything that you desire to be. So be the
Shay.
shift.
Ashe. All right.
And we
That's
need to allow other women to do it. And so before we feel the judgment, before the judgment try to creep up, as soon as you feel the judgment, pack it back down and
that's a
just
good
say, you know what? Because I want to be me. When I know some judgment come up, when I have some judgment for a woman for how she do, I want to be like me, baby.
mm-hmm.
So I have to allow her to be like her. If that works for her, no matter what it look like, it may be way wilder than mine now, but I like it because she owning it. I love it.
That's
I
good.
got bougie. I got the all the way bougie and the all the way ghetto, baby. I love it. I'm like, what that little girl say? She in the middle. She right in the
Mhm.
center. What's the girl name? You used to have the pompadour, the singer. She said she right in the middle.
Okay. Good.
Hmm.
Now we're trying to close out, Karen. The Dervey,
Uh-huh.
I
your
would say friendship and sisterhood and having healthy relationships with other women. I think that
Ashe.
maybe that would be a really good thing to dive
Mm-hmm.
into
Yeah.
more.
Oh, you know what? We are going to do that show. And
Mhm.
someone else confirmed that before we even came on. I never thought that people don't know how to be a friend until I just recently lost a friend who had a healthy relationship with her mother, but she had no real healthy relationships with other women. And so she discards her relationships with women. And this is the second time that I saw it. My spiritual eyes saw it. And I thought that it would be different with me. But it definitely is a red flag when people, you see women having difficulty being friends with other women. Trust and believe you will not be the exemption until they heal. So that's a good show. Thank you so much for confirming that we're going to do that. We're going to do that. Did I get everybody? Did y'all say in the comments? Okay, Tammy is confirming Seuss's. You all heard from Tammy about Black women curly hair, and she's the curly
Mhm.
hair guru, but she's not just the curly hair and style guru. Tammy
Mhm.
is also owns her real estate empire, actually.
Mhm.
And so she's from Vicksburg, Mississippi, baby. Gen Xer. Look, she's the class before me. Oh, she's your class, right? Yeah. Okay. All right. All right. So, y'all, this has been a lively show. And listen, I've been under the weather. I don't know how I did this. I was coughing. I just got a little cat nap thanks to Megan because I would have been up here at 1 o'clock. And Megan was like, you know, your show is at 2. I was like, oh my God. And I was able, something, it gave me enough strength. But I didn't know I was that I could get through this. So it truly has been a food, spiritual food, nourishment for me. And so I pray that it has been nourishment for you and that you will share this out. You all listen, a lot of people had to drop off. I'm doing a 7-day be the shift process where, well, not process, actually, just a be the shift inspiration. It's going to be here on YouTube. Ideally, it will be up at 7 o'clock. I'm trying to give myself room not to have those rigid, um, announcements. But it is an opportunity because of the climate and energy that we're in to rise to the occasion. Because people think you're rising to the occasion because you cut people off, because you block. But this is
Mhm.
another season to elevate. And elevation requires tools. It requires things that you do consistently. And one of those is knowing how to shift from one state of consciousness to another so that you can attract the thing that you desire. So that's where we are. And so tune in on YouTube. If you're in the portal, you can join us live on Zoom. It's going to be a short time unless we get spirited like we did today at the 7 a.m. prayer that went all the way over and became a whole revival. So I can't help it. But so we're going to try to do better for the next 7 days. So I love you all. There's nothing you can do about it. Make sure that you click all the links in the bio if you want a reading, if you want to get to us. Karen, it's always a hoot. I want you to get the technology together because I want you to do more. I want you to talk more. I want you to be. I really, honestly, Karen really
Yes.
is the voice and the. She is such a facilitator of different conversations. And if she had that technology, baby, I would turn over the our community space and let her moderate it. But she
Oh
don't like
Lord.
that. So
But I got a young in here. She's trying to get me started. First of all, we got to get my all this storage off back to my phone so I can get my emails right.
yes, yes, yes.
I
Dervin,
agree.
I'm so excited about your art. And I know we have an appointment,
Mhm.
so don't you hang up because I need to update you. It just was so exciting hearing you and you showing up and
Yes.
representing the Gen Zers. We got to get more Gen Z
Yes.
in here.
Yes.
Shanta says, Miss Karen is hilarious at all times.
Yes.
It's funny,
Always.
honey. I
You
didn't get
gotta
to
be.
see her when I went home, but honestly, she has no idea how much she is comic relief when I go
Mhm.
home and got to navigate through old paradigms at home. Oh my God. Thank God for Karen.
Hey, I mean, if not, I go crazy.
All right. And Megan, the
Mhm,
angel that I believe that the ancestors have sent to me has really
mhm,
kept me together. I give credit. The reason this
mhm.
this this
That's
uh
millennial.
podcast and series is happening is because Megan stepped in for me when I lost my last assistant. And so I honor you. Thank you so much for being a superstar in the community, doing the work. And I look forward to seeing more of you all's leadership because I'm not going to keep working like this. Mm-mm. No, no, no. I'm going to be passing the torch. So I love everyone. There's nothing you can do about it. Those of you in the comments who are regular, who made time out of your schedule, I'm going to go be quiet and take care of myself and feel so I can feel better and keep going. So have a wonderful day. Make sure you join Be the Shift. Make sure you subscribe to the YouTube channel and share it with others. My body must know that it's time for me to stop
Yeah,
because
the
it's
raspy.
going down. I love you all. Have a wonderful, wonderful day. Don't y'all leave.
Thank you.
Dervay, can you hear me? Okay, good. Um, can we reschedule? I can text you if you can't hear me. I did not know I wasn't going to be feeling good, but I literally have been talking since 6:30 this morning, and I'm just not feeling well. I don't know what you said. I can't for some reason.